Hi, welcome back. I'm Ed. I did a video series a few months ago about vibratory tumblers, and it seems like a lot of people enjoyed them, and I'm just not real happy with the way they came out. So I figure I'm going to give it another shot, try to be a little more detailed this time than I was last time, and see how it goes. Alright, so here's where we are on this batch. You have to do step one, which is the rough grit in a rotary tumbler. So I have my barrel from my 12-pound rotary tumbler that I've just got done tumbling a bunch of rocks. The rocks I tumbled are right here in a little tote, and I'm going to go through, and here's what the decision is. I'm deciding what is ready to go on to the vibratory tumbler, and I have a little tote over here to my right which is out of view, and that's where they will go. And then the ones I don't think are ready, they'll go right back in the 12-pound. And when I'm done, I'll fill it back up and I'll start another batch. And I keep doing this until I have enough rocks to fill my vibratory tumbler. Now, the vibratory is an 18-pound tumbler. It takes a lot of rocks. So this is a lengthy process. Start today. It probably doesn't have to be as lengthy as I make it. When you look at some of these rocks, like this one right here, I feel there's some rough spots on it. There's still some cracks on it. So I'm probably going to throw it back into the rotary and smooth it out some more. But if that doesn't bother you, then you could just throw this right on. It's not like if I put this rock in a vibratory, it's going to screw up the entire process or anything like that. It's a lot. It's in the eye of the beholder. If you're happy with the way they come out, then it worked out fine. Okay, so we're going to go through and we're going to look at a lot of these rocks and make sure I don't have any grit left on them, which the ones that are going back into the rotary, that wouldn't make any difference because they're going to go back into stage 1 grit anyway. But the ones that are going to go forth to the vibratory, I got to get all the grit off of them, because when you start with the vibratory, you're on step 2, which is the 120-220 grit. And what I have in the rotary is the 60-90 grit. So that's where we are. This one, I think this one can go on. Alright, we got a couple of really nice ones. This one I'm really looking forward to. This is an agate. Hopefully that's focusing for me. Okay, it's an agate. It feels really nice. That is definitely going forward. And a lot of the rocks that I have in this batch are rocks that were in the vibratory batch last time when they came out. There might have been an imperfection or something I wasn't real happy with, so I threw them back in the rotary, start over. They'll end up smaller, but it might just fix the problem. This one, I'm not sure with this one. It's got some pitting in it. Yeah, we'll send it back into the rotary. Here's another agate. It's got some rough spots on it. This is also an interesting thing. I've got a crack in this one. And to be honest with you, the rotary tumbler is probably not going to fix that. So my decision is, do I go ahead and just throw it forward and see how it comes out? Or do I throw it back in, probably beat a dead horse? So, I don't know. I'm going to put this one off to the side and I'll make a decision later on it. This one's pretty nice, but it's still got a few rough spots on it. Send it back for another run through. When I send it through another run through, I'll probably do 2 weeks in the rotary. So it'll probably be 2 weeks from today when I take these back out and see how they've come out. I do a lot of this more with my hands than with my eyes, just feeling to see if they're smooth. I really want to make this a good batch in the rotary, so I'm trying to be in the vibratory, so I'm trying to be very picky. Oh, this one's really nice. I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like it's got some cracks in it, but if it does, I don't feel them. Alright. In the interest of time, I'm probably going to cut this off because I'm probably going to be here for 10 or 15 minutes looking at rocks and deciding whether to move them forward or keep them back or what have you. And I doubt anybody really wants to watch 15 minutes of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to cut this off. and I'm going to come back in a little later. I still have, if you hear in the background, I have 2 3-pound tumblers going in stage 1, 2. I'll film when I open those up and we look at what I have in them. And this is going to be a preliminary video to my next vibratory series. So we'll be back in just a second with opening them up of the 2 3-pound tumblers. Just in case you haven't found out the trick to opening these things, which I had the first time I had Echo, take the little washer, run it inside, and just twist it, and it'll pop this right off. Then you just break the seal over here, pull that out, and it opens that up. Alright, let's see what we got in this one. I didn't even remember what I put in here. Looks like more of this stuff that I had in the other one. It's got some rough still on it. It's definitely not ready for the vibratory. Oh, that's got a rough spot on it too. It's an interesting looking rock. So these will probably go back into the rotaries. But yeah, that's how it works. Alright, I apologize for the background noise. There is a clothes washer right next to the camera. This is what happens when you have to share the man cave with the wife, but you know, that happens. The rumbling overhead is my 8-year-old son. He is a phenomenon unto himself. Alright, I opened up both the 3-pound rotaries I had going, and honestly everything in them I did not feel was ready. So a lot of them are like this. Actually, a lot of it's pretty smooth, but there's still a lot of rough edges on it. And this is another place where, you know, hey, that may not bother you, and you could put it right back in to the vibratory and go from here. But I'm gonna go ahead and put it back in, try to round it off a little bit more, see how that works. Between what I had left from the 12-pound and the entire contents of the 2 3-pounds, I've got my 12-pound filled back up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the water out of it, fill it back up with 60-90 grit, and I'm going to run it for a couple of more weeks. And at that point I will open it back up, and I'm thinking I will have enough for my vibratory at that point. For just a quick look, this is what I have for the vibratory right now. This tote, I'd say it's about half full. I'd like to get it to about 3/4 to even full. I've got water in it because I did hear at one point that once you start tumbling rocks, you shouldn't let them dry off. Okay, so I try to keep them wet. Before I continued, I wanted to point out I did do something this batch I hadn't done before. I threw a handful of rocks. I live near the Ohio River, and this is a handful of rocks I got at the Ohio River. It's basically river gravel, but it's actually tumbling pretty nicely. So some of these are going to go on into vibratory, and we'll see how they turn out. Some of them I basically used them as filler before. I was using them as filler, but they're coming out pretty nice. And, I'll take it. Works for me. For those that might be curious, a lot of the rocks that I'm tumbling I did buy. I live in Ohio. That gives me river gravel and flint in the area that I live in that I can go collect, and I have done that. But I do buy a lot of stuff from Gems by Mail and from the rock shop in South Dakota. I'm really looking forward to, in a couple of months, my son and I are going to do a trip, and we are going to stop into the rock shop up in South Dakota. I think that's going to be really neat to get to see that place in person. Anytime you order something from the rock shop, they put a piece of candy in it, and that just tickles me. I look forward to that every time I put an order in. Last thing I wanted to look at, here's one of the rocks I just took out of the 3 pounds. Now this one, if you see, it's got some massive pitting in it. There is no way that I'm ever going to get this to smooth out. So this one I'm not going to put back in even as filler. This one is actually in really nice shape and it looks really good, but it's got just this one real sharp ridge right here. And this is a good example of something that I think, if I put it back in the tumbler, in the rotary tumbler, for another couple of weeks, it'll round that out a little bit more and make it nicer. I think, sometimes there's just nothing you can do to fix it. Sometimes, a little bit more time will fix whatever problem it is. But once again, that's something, if that doesn't bother you, hey, you can. That rock would by no means mess up the next batch in the Vibratory. Alright, so if you've been watching these videos, I seriously appreciate it. Once again, I don't claim to be an expert. If there's someone on here that knows a lot more than me or just knows more than me, and you're seeing me make a mistake, or if I'm saying anything wrong, please leave a comment and help me correct it. I don't want to spread bad information. But if not, in a couple of weeks, I'll probably put up another video, hopefully when we're starting up step 2 in the Vibratory. It occurred to me that some of you might actually want to see how I set up the rotary. So basically this is 60-90 grit. And my little scoop is supposed to be about 2 tablespoons. I think it's more than that. But I put 12 of these in, which would come out to about 24 tablespoons for a 12-pound rotary tumbler. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, I put that in there. That's my 60-90 grit. And I use distilled water. I have a water softener. I don't know that the salt would hurt this process, but distilled water is not real expensive. I don't mind, the expense of getting it. Okay, you fill the water up to just below the top of the rocks. Okay, I can see it's starting to come up. Usually what they say is so the top layer of your rocks is out, but the rest of them are underwater. Okay, looks about good to me. Okay, with my lid, I usually wet the edges before I put it in. That probably makes absolutely no difference, but I do it, and it works for me. I'm sure it doesn't hurt anything. So I put my lid on. There it is. I dry it off a little bit. Then put the big lid on. And I put it on, put on the washer, snug this down a little bit, then I give it another good push around the edges, snug that down a little more, and we've got a 2-week wait until this is done. If you're into instant results, rock tumbling is definitely not for you. Thank you for watching. See you in a couple of weeks.